Okay, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody and remind you to please silence your phone if it's on. Reminder, our board meeting is being live streamed, and I think Dr. Kelly might be calling in. Can we get confirmation of that? Okay, but we do have quorum, so we'll move forward, and when he joins us, we'll acknowledge that. While we don't
I'm on
have,
the line, Mr. Chairman.
hey, there you go. Perfect timing. We acknowledge that. All righty.
Except we're getting some feedback. Is that us on our end? Do you know?
Okay. Dr. Kelly, if you could state your location for the minutes.
I'm located at City Hall, downtown Gulfport, Mississippi.
Okay, thank you. And while we're not doing recognition of special guests, I think we will have a special guest a little bit later on this morning, so we'll recognize that person when they arrive. So next we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'll do, and the invocation by Mr. Bailey. Please join me in saying the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Y'all bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for the opportunities of the day. Lord, we just ask you to watch over our state and our children and our staffs and bless them. Place a hedge of protection around them, protect them. Lord, we just ask you to be with this meeting today and the decisions that are made. Lord, may they always glorify you and be in the best interest of your children. Lord, again, as we come to you with thankful hearts. We're blessed in so many ways. We're thankful for those who fight the fight for us so that we have freedom. Lord, we're blessed by that, and we thank you for that. Again, we ask you to bless education in the state, bless the children of the state of Mississippi, bless the educators, Lord. Be with them, give them guidance, and may we glorify your name in everything we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you should have in front of you the minutes from the January 16th board meeting. I believe I've heard from one board member that there's one small amendment.
I voted nay.
Okay, on the, which particular section are we talking about? On the ESA vote?
Yes.
Okay, so there was discussion in the minutes that the ESA vote that we took, there was one nay, and I think we reported it as unanimous. Okay, so there's a motion to change those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Okay, seeing none, are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like to pull out for discussion? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Okay, hearing none, then we'll move for adoption of the full agenda as presented. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, there's second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. All righty. I think we've got some really exciting things in our recognition ceremony, so I will move to that part of the agenda.
Okay.
Before we get to our esteemed guests in the audience, first we want to recognize our Employee of the Month. Good morning, Dr. Dean, Dr. Wright, and board members. It is now my honor to present to you the board recognition for the month of February. Today, we honor the MDE Employee of the Month for February. This month's honoree is Josh Huey, Infrastructure Engineer in the Office of Technology and Strategic Services, or OTSS. Josh, please come forward and join Dr. Wright and Dr. Dean at the front of the room. This month's theme is performance versatility, which means Josh demonstrates excellent work ethic through productivity and diligence. He is always willing to stop and address a challenge regardless of his workload. He approaches new opportunities as chances to learn and to expand his own skills while assisting his team members. That doesn't mean he always agrees with their approach, but he shares his perspective in a professional and constructive manner. Josh balances and prioritizes tasks with customer service at the heart of his work. He is the go-to subject matter expert regarding many of OTSS's infrastructure needs and is an excellent resource for cross-training and onboarding new team members. Josh is also a resource for school districts who need technology assistance. He frequently communicates with technology coordinators from the districts to provide guidance for them to implement best practices and to help students. Josh often makes himself available after work to ensure our world-class data systems are operational, secure, and available for employees and others to use. Also, which you may not know, Josh is the person behind the scenes making sure the agency's live stream meetings run smoothly. For all these reasons and more, Josh was selected as Employee of the Month. Congratulations, and you are welcome to make remarks.
Thank you. I'm just really blessed to have a job that's challenging and intellectually stimulating, and that I enjoy going to most days of the week. But all in all, I really enjoy it here, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This concludes this month's board recognitions.
We're going to rearrange, I'm going to do my comments in a second, if it's Chairman, I'm going to go with our spotlight, which is our guest today.
Love it.
All righty. So this month's spotlight features the Mississippi School for the Deaf girls basketball coach, Siku White. Mr. White is an inspiration and a role model to his students and his players and the entire MSD community. He gained national attention after a video of him coaching his team went viral. That prompted NBA TV to travel to Mississippi to produce a feature story about him. We're excited to share this very video with you today. But before we play the video, I want to acknowledge folks that are in the room. So Siku White, head girls basketball coach, if you'd stand, please, so we could recognize you. Yes, indeed. Arness Georgetown, who's the head football coach. Is Arness here? Yes, indeed. Casey Cronin is our interpreter. Cheryl Kaler is the principal. And very good. And Sheila White is the secretary. So this, the team is also here. So Coach White, would you be willing to stand and introduce your players?
Raise your hand while I'm introducing you. This is Reagan Hendricks, and she's a junior who plays for me. This is Nyla, last name's Ori, and she's a senior with us this year. This is Valencia Shepherd, sorry. Valencia Shepherd, and she's actually a 7th grader on our team this year. And this is Zella Jones, and she is also a 7th grader with us this year. This is Desiree Johnson. And she's actually a 6th grader on our team.
Oh my
with
gosh.
us today.
Wow.
This is Kiara Ford, and she's a senior with us today. This is Dianisha, last name's Robinson, and she is also in the 7th grade. And this is Korea McRae, and she's a 9th grader at MSD. This is Alexis Robinson, and she's one of our juniors that we have on the team. This is Mary Eno, and she's a junior at MSD. And then we have Veronica Lopez, and she's a junior at MSD. Then we have Coriana Guy, and she's a senior with us. And this is Taylor Robinson, and she is also a senior at MSD, and this is the MSD girls basketball team. There's a real reason why all of this happened for me.
Awesome.
All right, so now we're going to see the video. Coach White, thank you so much for what you do each and every day for our students, and we are blessed, truly blessed to have you at the School of the Deaf. So thank you, and thank you for bringing your amazing team so that we could celebrate with you. Thank you. And if you wanted to stay, you're more than welcome to stay, and I'm sure you're all anxious to get back to school. Yeah. Thanks again.
That's so awesome. And I just, you know,
Woo, we don't need to show these things at the beginning of the meeting.
I know.
And what's really cool for me, Reagan, she's in the purple shirt. I had her in kindergarten.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
And we started the process of getting her there, and it's a really honor to see how awesome that is, to see her develop and grow the way she has.
You know, every time we talk about the School for Blind and Deaf, I remind us, you know, I will remind us that, you know, we're the board for that school. Last year, Dr. Kelly and I had the chance to take a tour, and I would encourage any of y'all, if you have an afternoon, please go by and see it. It's amazing. I mean, it's on the scale of a community college, essentially. It's, you know, obviously all enclosed, and yes, they have challenges, and we heard a couple of them and, you know, talked about how to address those challenges, but y'all are their board member. You know, you're their local board member, and I would encourage you to own that and go by and see what good things that they're doing there and what they need from us. So.
Very good. So I've got, go with my report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it's been, needless to say, a very, very busy month since I saw you last. We've had our teacher advisory council meetings. We've had the superintendent's advisory council had those meetings. We finished up with regional superintendent meetings. I've been speaking at a variety of places. We're going to start with the National Literacy Summit. CCSSO sponsored the very first National Literacy Summit, and needless to say, we were one of the features of that summit because of the success that we're having. Lots of states are struggling with that, so we are taking a very active role as the chief state school officers in this, and have even been on a call and talking about next steps so that we can help other states with the struggles that they're having with literacy. Following that, I went to their convening of CAOs and CTOs, Chief Talent Officers and Chief Academic Officers, and they too were all focused on the session that I led. Anyway, was focused on literacy. Pete Smith and I had an amazing visit with the South Carolina legislature. The Speaker of the House called and asked if we would come over. South Carolina is truly struggling with literacy, and they invited us over, and to say that we were treated like royalty is an absolute understatement. I mean, we were picked up by security. We had dinner with the Speaker and the chairlady of the House Ed Committee, lunch with the governor the following day, and then I was speaking before the entire House Education Committee, but it was that plus an audience. So it wasn't just the committee. They had opened it up to this huge room, and then we finished with a press conference. And in a very heartfelt statement, the Speaker looked at me and he said, "We want to be just like Mississippi." And so it was really, they were so grateful. We had the REL Southeast had a governing board meeting. I was the keynote there to talk about our progress. Butler Snow conducted an education forum. Governor Barber, Governor Reeves, our ed chairs, and other legislators were there. And Jason was there to be a moderator for a panel of both of our ed chairs, and to say that the recognition that came for the hard work that's going on across the state to teachers, to leaders, to the department was just very heartfelt messages from both Governor Barber and Governor Reeves. And so, Kelly, please know that the teachers just got such applause for all the hard work that they're doing there. And then last but not least, we had spoke at the House Education Appropriations Committee about our budget. So they were asking questions about that. And I'm going to let Dr. Elam update you. The governor has opened a roundtable in Mississippi, and Dr. Elam is your representative, so I'll let her talk to you about that roundtable work.
Okay, thank you. The roundtable, it's called, official title is Governor's Education Human Capital Roundtable. That's quite a mouthful. So now Governor's Education Roundtable.
There you go.
We met last Thursday, and this is a gathering that certainly Dr. Wright was very instrumental in bringing to Mississippi. It's being conducted by the SREB, which is the Southern Regional Education Board, and they are a research body that takes on projects. This is one of their projects of examining what we're going to do about teacher shortage, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. We were very fortunate that the governor, our governor, came to the opening meeting and was probably there, I don't know, half hour or so, and gave a really impactful opening remarks. I think that the people who were there from SREB were very impressed that we were getting such attention, that they and us getting such attention from the governor. And he made extremely, and I don't over-exaggerate that, complimentary remarks about what Dr. Wright and MDE as a group have achieved in Mississippi over the last few years. And he likened that to the fact that it's relative because it's all the growth that we've had, but he expects and believes, truly believes, I think, very heartfelt, that 10 years from now, it won't be how much we've made in growth, but the fact that we, as a state in education, are among the top states in the country for achievement in education. So I honestly feel that he really believes that. I have no doubt. And I think that we will see his support displayed during the next 4 years, certainly, of advancing education. Give you a little bit of background. The group is composed of teachers, legislators, a representative from IHL, Dr. Morrison, and university deans, presidents of universities, superintendents, community college representative, and then Dr. Wright participated, and Dr. Murphy and Dr. Burson. And so it's a diverse group. I think a lot can be accomplished with that diversity included. And as I said, the charge, in brief, we're looking at what we can do to improve or to enhance the pipeline of teachers in very different pathways. The challenge, or the charge, I should say, the charge that was put forth by SREB, and then we modified it some, but it was to increase the effectiveness, the quantity, and the diversity of teachers in Mississippi classrooms. And that will be done by concentrating on new and better ways to attract, prepare, license, hire, support, and retain those teachers. And so we're going to be meeting over the next year, meeting every 2 months. And in the meantime, behind those meetings, SREB will be supplying all the members of the roundtable with research documents to help us come up with ways that we can move this challenge forward designed particularly for the state of Mississippi. And we will be developing particular segments. Obviously, in a year, we can't accomplish all those things we need to do. So we, as a roundtable, next time will be focusing in on which ones we want to put our resources toward.
Thank you. And then Dr. Dean had asked for updates for around computer science and civics education. So Dr. Oakley, if you would come to the table and provide those quick updates for us. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
So a couple of topics for you. First of all, on the computer science front, this is a project we've had underway for probably 4 or 5 years now. We're in a pilot phase of this, moving toward full implementation of computer science statewide by the 21-22 school year. So we're about 18 months out from K-12 full implementation. The big driving force behind this is workforce and job demand. As you're aware, we're doing a lot of work already on the CTE side with connections with business and industry to identify labor market needs. And so this is part of that same larger conversation that's been going on a little bit longer than our Perkins planning. Right now, there are over 500,000 jobs available nationally in computer science, and only about 60,000 folks finishing in computer science each year. So we're looking at roughly 4 jobs for every computer science graduate. This is based on national data, these first 3 bullets are. And there's a potential for over 1 million jobs to be open nationwide over the next couple of years. In Mississippi, obviously our numbers are significantly smaller. We're looking at right at 1,100 jobs in computer science open and roughly 155 computer science graduates annually. We have been piloting since 2016 training and supports from code.org and on our standards and on some pilot courses for secondary schools in the state. We've had over 100 districts that have participated in these sessions, so we've got a broad reach. We're getting a little bit of entry into the Delta. That's one of the areas, if you remember last summer, we mentioned that there's not been a lot of activity. We've had some folks kind of step up and get involved in that from some of our Delta counties. And so we're pleased to see that pilot expand over time with a view toward full implementation. In addition to the ongoing professional development that we've been conducting, and I jumped right in your folder are these slides if you would like to follow along.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say. Thanks, Nathan.
So in addition to the ongoing professional development that we have provided statewide, we also have been involved in some work developing infrastructure, developing content knowledge for staff. We've been working closely with the Research Curriculum Unit at Mississippi State. But in 16-17, we participated in the National CS for All Summit. We also established a chapter of a Computer Science Teacher Association here in Mississippi. The standards came forward to you for approval during the 17-18 school year, and those standards are being used as we do curriculum revision and adoption going forward for specific courses. In the last school year, we launched a pathway for software development in partnership with C-Spire. They've been a strong partner in this work since we launched this several years back, and that links directly into community colleges. We have right now, as of last fall, we had about 80 students participating in either 7 or 8 community college programs that are partnerships between local districts and CJCs that are getting those students credits that articulate into the community college setting. We also, over the last year, have redesigned some of the middle school technology courses to include more of that computer science content. And we have gotten approval of computer science as a high school graduation credit. If you look in our graduation endorsement options, there's a Carnegie Unit requirement for technology or computer science. And so these CS courses that we're offering at the high school level would meet that requirement. Last fall, we brought forward for your approval revision to curriculum for 2 Cyber Foundations courses, heavily seeded with computer science content. We also revised one of our IT courses on the career tech side. And then, as I mentioned earlier, as we're looking at this, considering workforce need as we do CTE planning and look at specific programs that might need to be in place within local communities. And then this spring, actually today in the consent, but there's a couple items coming forward. One of them is a change in a policy that would allow for computer science principles, this AP Computer Science Principles course, to count as a Carnegie credit for graduation in either math or science. I couldn't take the AP course and say I'm going to use it for math and science and computer science. I've still got to have the Carnegie Unit requirements, but it would give me some flexibility to use that credit for one of those purposes or the other. We really believe that's going to incentivize districts to look at that course, and it's going to incentivize students to pursue that course if they've got some flexibility and interest in computer science to use it for a mathematics credit or for a science credit along the way. There are a number of other states that are taking a similar approach, and so we're following that path forward to give that option for students. And then we
I know you're on the roll, but I want to ask this question. It's the first time I heard that it had to be an AP. So is that pretty common practice?
That is.
Are there any states that are allowing, non-AP computer science to be?
I'm not aware of any offhand.
It's all
We
AP?
looked at this specifically from the sense of this is a rigorous course.
Right.
If we're going to count this course for either math or science, we want it to be of significant rigor. There are some other computer science courses that would still count for that CS credit in high school, but if we're going to translate this credit over into math or science, we felt like it needed to be this AP.
As we move along, I'm always concerned, about equity and the availability of AP computer science in, XYZ district. I'm well aware of our, efforts to ensure, equal access to AP, paying for it, the teachers training, got all that. But, in reality, getting an AP computer science teacher in some places is going to be extremely difficult. I just want to make sure all the, kids who we're trying to get to, are equally, have this equal access to AP Computer Science.
Absolutely. So we're cognizant of that. We're looking at this from an online course standpoint.
Yes,
We've got a
exactly.
number of online
Virtual.
courses that are available for students. There's potential for AP Computer Science to be delivered through an online platform. We also are looking at the licensure requirements for our AP teachers and what those requirements look like to ease that access in rural and small school settings for teachers to be able to teach AP
Last question on this,
courses.
is RCU developing a curriculum that is rigorous enough that would be considered a math or science, or is that not what they're doing?
So they've been working with us on the CTE credits, the Exploring Computer Science, the IT courses. This AP is the path that we're taking for the transfer to math and science credit.
Okay, thank you.
So ultimately, this computer science is a K-12 initiative. It is not strictly about high school. We're looking at this, much like we do with CTE and workforce, as a development that happens across the continuum, where there's foundational pieces with coding and digital literacy and keyboarding, robotics in elementary grades, and then moving more into problem solving and application of that and career exploration as they move into middle school, and then even more deeply into the coding and data science and artificial intelligence potentially down the road as they move into the foundational Exploring Computer Science course in high school and potentially that AP course. Another way to look at this is this sequence as we move from elementary through high school, is that there's just foundational exposure in elementary grades. There's several courses that students could take, Cyber Foundations 1 and 2, Computer Science and Engineering as well in middle school. And as they move into high school, that introductory computer science course that we would not be looking at for math and science credit right now, just foundational computer science, Exploring Computer Science course, would feed students into those AP opportunities, into game design or information technology and the career tech side, software development that C-Spire has partnered with, and then even future pathways. We know this is an ever-evolving area, and so as we look at potential opportunities with cybersecurity, that's a big topic right now nationwide from both the private sector and public sector both. Augmented and virtual reality, data science and forensics, all of those have connections to computer science, and we feel like they're kind of pathways forward for students to take with this. I would share, other than a flow-through appropriation to the RCU at Mississippi State to support a lot of the PD and training and some of the development for this, we have done this kind of piecing funds together from within the department budget. And so we are continuing this work with that view toward 21-22 school year for implementation statewide.
You have a question?
Yep, good presentation, by the way. Just for my education, the middle school courses, as an example, would be a required course, or is this an elective course? How would that work?
Wendy, can you?
Foundations 1 and Cyber Foundations 2 are required courses.
Okay.
That the students generally take when they come through either usually 7th grade and 8th grade.
Okay. So at minimum, they'll get 1 and 2, and then the engineering portion is based on what?
It's an elective
It's an
that
elective.
they can choose to take or that the schools can choose to offer.
Okay. And then based on the thinking way and philosophy, what's our projections? Like we started this conversation by showing the gap of there's 1,100 jobs and we've only got 155. What's the projections based on this thinking way over the next 2 to 3 years of how we can close that gap? What are your thoughts?
So I think the pilot shifting into full implementation is the pathway. We laid this path out very clearly when we launched this project. We were at South Point, so it was 15-16 school year when this work started, and we were very deliberate then. As we roll this out and we give thought to course credits and requirements, we've got to give thought to what else is in the school day.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to push and expose students to computer science for those career opportunities, but we also know there's other content they've
That's
got to
right.
pick up during the day,
That's
and
right.
we can't do one to the detriment of the other.
And the other thing, as Nathan said, we've done this without really any funding. I mean, we set a goal for 2022 to have computer science K-12, and I think we're on the path to get that accomplished. But there is probably going to come a time that we're going to need more specific funding, particularly as it relates to CTE programming and other pieces that districts are going to have to pick up as well as what we are, which is another reason, back to the Perkins plan, that we opted to keep some of the money in reserve because we knew that these future CTE programs are going to need some kind of seed money, and that's part of where that money, that split K-12 community college money, as well as the reserve funds, we'll be able to use that to start some of these CTE programs that Nathan's just describing.
And the numbers on equipment are pretty high.
Yes, they are. It's in,
You start
it's,
equiping computers and labs and those type of things, so glad to fund professional development and some of those things, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to some of the equipment needs out there.
If you're putting in a robotics program, putting in some
absolutely.
other kinds
Mr.
of
Bailey's
AI
exactly
equipment.
right. It's expensive. I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of the newer CTE programs come with a greater deal of expense. So, your title monies can go so far, to your point, in a local district. And that's one of the reasons that we've been trying to encourage people to look at all the virtual offerings, getting districts to partner with one another. Dr. Cole and I just met with 4 superintendents last week, and we're encouraging them to do exactly that. If one of them's got a good teacher, then partner with the other district and schedule that so that you can have the ability to have that teaching going on in that other school virtually versus both of you having to find a teacher of equal quality. So we've been trying to be creative as we've been moving forward.
Kind of back to what Mr. Bailey was saying, even at the elementary level, it becomes an expense that you have to think about because for a regular ed classroom, starting to implement those things, as you stated, comes into that core content and trying to find somebody that does know. I mean, if I was trying to teach robotics, I might be a little challenging myself. But again, thinking of a person that could come in and do those things as elementary students are exposed to that and being taught, I mean, to me, that's another teacher unit that we also have to be thinking about as well.
Or another licensure endorsement, and that's the other
Yes.
thing that we're looking at too. So, because we're trying to think about the overall cost and keeping costs down, and that's typically where everybody kind of goes to is an FTE and FTE. And what we're saying is, but maybe there's a way to share that, A, and B, maybe there's a way to get other people, like inside that elementary school, an endorsement to do that, so that could be a part of that person's responsibility
Like
too.
if students are going to a computer lab setting,
Right.
let them spend some of that time in this code.org
That's right.
setting with using some of the resources there, getting that exposure in elementary grades.
A lot of the maker spaces are targeting that as well.
Couple of follow-on questions. So the intro at the high school level, is it CTE? Is it required?
So the Exploring Computer Science, Wendy, I'm going to defer to you again. Yeah.
It's an elective,
It's an academic side course, it's not required though.
but it's not CTE.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's not CTE, it's academic, and it's an elective.
But they are required to have either a computer science or technology credit to graduate,
Yeah.
and
That's
this
right.
would fulfill that.
That's
So-
right.
And this, so keep in mind, as we do framework revisions, as we look at our technology courses, we've got these computer science standards adopted, and so even as we look at our other technology courses, we're looking at where we embed additional computer science content into those, whether it's for the Exploring Computer Science, the Information Technology course on the CTE side. It's finding its way into these various courses, one of which is required for graduation.
I'll make one more comment.
Excuse me.
Stop pontificating, but I mean, this is so vital. I mean, because there's much bigger, larger paradigm shifting, cultural changes that society's, going through right now. And we're sort of, already in it, and a lot of states have leaned forward. But I think about it like 50 years ago, in the curriculum might have been textile manufacturing or something, copper-based telephonics, right? Technology's changed, and it's a constant default to it's going to be this in addition to what we're already doing. I don't think that's right. And I think our board has to set that tone for what the future looks like. Like, it's this, and if there's only so many hours in a day, what needs to fall off, because this is what we need to be providing our kids for their future, because this is the future that they are already in and they're inheriting, and we can't be training them for jobs that's not going to be there in 10 years. This is like, up there with math, science, biology, computer science, and it's not just the C-Spire push. It is what, these skills and these IT skills that they're going to need beyond high school to be employable. And we, as the public state board of education, need to be pushing. And it's not and now we got to deal with this. And I know you guys are doing that. I'm just constantly hearing it as a default, like, it's this, we got to do all these things and add this. It should be, one of the top 2 or 3 things in everybody's day because that future is here. So again, I'm off my
Dr.
stump.
Oakley, the upper level stuff, like Project Lead the Way, is that vocationally funded? It is vocationally funded, so some of the upper level things that people may not be aware in the academy realms of Project Lead the Way, and that takes an engineering side or a computer science side, so you might build on that a little bit, and that's some of the upper level opportunities.
Any other comments before? Okay, thanks.
So let's jump into civics. That was the other topic you wanted kind of an update on. So when we revised our social studies standards in 2018, there are 5 strands that are threaded throughout K-12 content. So whether you look at kindergarten, 3rd, 5th, 9th, 12th grade, it does not matter. Each of those grade level courses is going to have content and standards for students specific to civil rights, economics, geography, history, and civics. So this is deep embedded threaded content through the courses. These civics strands, as students move through their K-12 setting, gives them really an understanding of not just civic life, but also politics and government and how that government operates. It builds an understanding of the rights and responsibilities of citizens that we have here, as well as constitutional democracy, and how they are to participate responsibly as citizens. And then ultimately, that civic strand over time is expanded out so that they can relate their prior learning experiences to where they're going and build their capacity to participate as an active member in U.S. government. So just pulled a couple of screenshots here. You can see this is a kindergarten standard or snapshot from the kindergarten standards. The theme here is around citizenship, and you can see there's a civic strand where students are looking at the roles that different people play as they exercise good citizenship. Responsibilities they might have, the way that rules come into play, the way that consequences happen when rules are not followed, and then roles and responsibilities of authority figures. So we're getting into basically community helpers and people that lead in the community and building an understanding within even our youngest students of what those folks look like. Here's a pull from the 5th grade standards. This is a U.S. history content in this particular course, but you can see here it's getting into the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution, and students building an understanding of those governmental documents and the features of those, and even you look at that second standard, demonstrate respect for the rights of others in discussion and classroom debates. So they're building their ability to be civically minded and to engage in a debate or a discourse on such topics. If you look specifically, where does civics fall more heavily? You can see across the K through 6 course progression that 6th grade class is a standalone, heavy focus on civics and the world. And then as we look at the secondary side, you can see, again, in typically that senior year, there's a half-credit course in economics and a half-credit in government. That government course is very heavily focused on the world of, on the realm of civics for students. So, again, we adopted the updated standards in 2017-18. We've been training regionally over the 18-19 and 19-20 school year for implementation of these. And civics is a big part of what we're doing there, but it's not a standalone course, but in fact threaded throughout. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions on civics? Thank you for that update.
All right.
And I just, the reason I asked for this, obviously, I think people are paying attention, know where computer science is in the, in the debate today, particularly at the legislature and through media. But, if you read some of the, education, literature or, what people are talking about at conferences, civics has sort of crept into this as sort of, hey, wait a minute, we focus so hard on math and science, let's not forget civics. And I just want us to be armed, when people say, what are you doing for civics? That. I mean, we are. We have civics embedded in our curriculum from start to finish. And, every year there's questions on that. So I just want to make sure that we were well aware. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want me to start my presentation or wait just about 2 minutes? I want to do this.
reports.
Or can we jump around on the agenda and then come back to number one? Because
Yeah, I was
number one's going to
definitely
take a
gonna-
little
well, I
bit.
thought I'd do my report and then hopefully
Do the report, that's
the
a good
timing
idea.
would
That's
be.
great. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to kind of try and switch some things around here a little bit. I'll do my report, and then maybe we have time for subcommittees, and then come back to the student representatives. Just real quick on my report, it's already been reported. I've had the privilege to serve as moderator for a panel, a conversation on education, and again, the praise was effusive, not only for the hard work of the executive leadership team at MDE, but particularly for Dr. Wright, coming from the current governor and the previous two times governor ago, Governor Barber. And so, I just pointed it out then, I point out again, these are good times. I mean, that political goodwill did not exist, a few years ago. And so, as the saying goes, we should make hay while the sun's shining. Also, to reiterate what I heard Governor Reeves talk about was we've come a long way, and in some ways we are good. While we have absolute, significant challenges, let's not, forget that. I kept hearing, this good to great. We're good, but these next 10 years, our responsibility is to try to, push and make us great. Also, want to say thank you to the board for turning your superintendent evaluation. I know that's an important chore that we all participate in, and we've got the results. And so thank you for your time. And lastly, on my report is I'm talking to Sonia right now about potentially planning a board retreat sometime where it's not going to be here. It needs to be away, and I think we need to, we're due for several new board members, and we've got some, relative new board members already. But I think it'd be an important kind of pivot moment just to say, let's check in where we are. We did this at MPB a couple of years ago, but I would think that, we'll find a place probably May, June-ish, probably May timeframe. So I'll get with y'all individually and just check your schedules because it's, it'd be a day somewhere. So more to come on that. And trying to skip around just a little bit, I want to go ahead and get into our subcommittee reports. Academic achievement, Ms. Altman.
The Academic Achievement Subcommittee met this morning. Dr. Oakley, gave us an update on,
We go to different barbers. Other than that, we're
was that
exactly the
supposed to be
same.
funny?
Dad joke.
Moving right along. We got an update on several things that have been going on. One thing that we received is information on professional development, and we get that quarterly. And in the last quarter, face-to-face development, they had 2,360 participants from 32 districts in 109 sessions. So that was face-to-face. And then online, professional development had 533 participants with a 69% completion rate. They offered 14 courses, and 100% of the participants that surveyed said they wanted to take additional online classes. So teachers and practitioners are buying into the professional development and are using it to their advantage. This is, of course, working with the RESAs and providing this. Also, he told us about, he and Ms. Lamonis made a presentation to follow up on what you were saying in New Orleans, actually yesterday, on the literacy training and the letters training that's going on. And I think the thing that is so rewarding about this is how our people are being called upon to be the presenters, and people are asking them questions, whereas in the past, we always had to sit and ask the question. So that's very gratifying. And then we also got an update on interviews that they have been having with individual schools that are low performing, and also the preparation that we're doing for the board to meet with those low performing districts. What they've been meeting with are individual schools, and so we will meet with districts that are low performing. I think they've identified 4 for our first meeting.
Great. Any questions on the subcommittee report? Ms. Rye, early childhood?
We met yesterday afternoon, and it was a lot of updates. So one of the updates we received was on the professional development that had been going on with the family engagement. They have had several training series, and they had 607 participants. Out of those participants, there were administrators, teachers, teacher assistants, center directors, family liaisons, and school counselors, and a couple of others that maybe weren't identified. They are also beginning to disperse out to the different schools and Head Starts and private daycares the family engagement kits. We also received an update on coaching. To start with, one of the things is the coaching piece is about to stop because they're going to begin the observations and evaluations to see the growth that the different classrooms have made. 92 schools with 3,126 students and 352 teachers are involved in this. There are 9 full-time coaches and 2 part-time coaches. And some of the feedback that they've received is it's all been very positive. One of the biggest things was the cohesiveness between the coaches and the department. They're getting the same type of information and feedback, and that's been very helpful for them as they've been moving forward. They've also seen marked improvement with STEM activities and art integration due to several workshops that have been attended by the participants. The last update that we got was about the Senate bill, number 2286. There have been 3 changes in that bill. One of them being that the language just had been changed to use terminology that was in ESA. The other one was where before there had been talk about the number of collaboratives that would be done in phases, but now changing that to 25% of 4-year-olds in the state being served. And also the funding has been upped to be $2,500 per full-time student and $1,125 for a student that would be half a day. And then there seems to have lots of support with this, and if it passes, there would be an increase of about $1 million in what we're currently doing.
Great. Okay, any questions on that report? One more subcommittee report, Dr. Elam, educator quality.
Yes, we did meet yesterday, and we reviewed the 2 items on your consent agenda that we fully endorse. It's D and E that you will look at later in the agenda. And then we spent pretty much the remainder of the time talking about what had transpired at the roundtable that I already gave you an update on, and how we want to, how we me as the board representative, but we as a board want to move forward on identifying the challenges that we will take on in that roundtable. So that's.
Okay. Any questions for that subcommittee report? Okay. Well, I know that we have some important guests, but I'm gonna get to them in a second because I really want them to hear our student representatives report. This is the first time that the State Board of Education has had student representatives be on our board. We went through a very rigorous process of, culling down tremendous, talented applicants down to the 2 folks that you see now. We have a senior, Shelby Dean, who is from Clinton, and a rising senior, Omar Jamil from DeSoto County. As they rotate off, Jamil will become the senior, and we're going through our process to replace, Omar with a rising junior. So we're already going through that process, and I can just tell you, if you want to suffer a crisis of confidence, start reading some of these folks' resumes because I felt like a total loser when I interviewed them. But I recognize fully well that I'm putting y'all on the spot with our Lieutenant Governor and the Chairman of the State Education Committee here present. But I just think this is such a special thing that I would turn it over to you guys for your report.
Yes, hello. Shelby and I will meet with the Student Advisory Council in Jackson for the first time this year tomorrow. With dozens of students from across the state of Mississippi, Shelby and I will discuss implementing a county-level student board and topics such as student safety, state testing, college courses in high school, and college and career readiness. We look forward to hearing from our council, including their concerns, ideas, and achievements. Shelby?
At our last meeting in November, one of the major issues expressed by students from different groups was a lack of ACT and SAT prep courses. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and brag on my high school a little bit. There's a course offered to juniors and seniors at CHS called Humanities. It happens before school during an early period. It's a semester long, and any junior or senior can participate no matter your GPA or what courses you're taking. and it's 5 days a week, daily PSAT and ACT practice. The first 5 weeks, it's PSAT practice for the PSAT, and after that, it goes on to ACT practice. Personally, I took the course, and I brought my ACT up 4 points, and my PSAT index up 13 points, which was a lot. And I feel like this is a really great opportunity, and if we could find a way to let this be offered to all Mississippi high school students, they'd be more prepared for these very important tests. They could also get into better colleges and get more scholarship opportunity money. Although it was kind of rough getting up an hour early for school every morning, the benefits of the class greatly outweighed that. So that's a good opportunity.
And hats off to those teachers who give up their time to come in early. I met with that group when I was observing over at Clinton High a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying, yes, it was early to get up, but there was not one student that said it was not so worthwhile. And hats off to all those teachers for making that happen. And that group has grown over the years because of the popularity of this class. So, yeah.
Any thoughts or questions for our student reps? Okay. So I'll do the introduction of our special guest here. We actually have three. Leah Rupp Smith, who's serving under the Lieutenant Governor's staff, alumni of K-12 MDE as well as IHL, so she knows ed policy as well as any of us. And I already recognize Chairman DeBar, served one term in the House, now Senator representing George, Greene, and Wayne County. So thank you for being here. But we're here to hear from Lieutenant Governor Hosemann, who I think most of us know. He's our 33rd Lieutenant Governor, elected in November with, as he said, he applied for the job of Lieutenant Governor and is hired with more than 60% of the vote. And I'll just tell you, this guy, I don't know if you follow things on social media, not only are, the obvious things that we're facing in terms of policy challenges in the state of Mississippi, the corrections challenge, the challenges that we know about with DHS and TANF, but with the recent flooding in the capital area, somebody noticed that our Lieutenant Governor was riding around by himself, checking it out in his truck. But we know that true leadership is, one that's a multitask, and the beat goes on. And so, while those things are certainly day-to-day challenges, we appreciate your focus on education, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and the direction that you're going, and whatever way that we can be supportive, we're happy to do so. Governor Hosemann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate so much your introduction and whatnot. And I did get wet this weekend. Like everybody else. So, and I see so many familiar faces. Senator Karen, it's good to see you. The mayor and I were in Leadership Jackson together.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not going to give the year, but I will say it was a different century. Whatever that means, I'll take it from there.
But it was a great group.
It was a great group. We actually have, well, I'm not going into all that. I will say it's a pleasure to come over and have a chance to visit. Since education is a third to 40% of our budget, I think it's really important that we stay in contact. I appreciate the ability to have Ms. Wright with us on a couple of different occasions to explain where y'all are going, what your needs are, and whatnot. And we have significant things that we're proposing out of the Senate this year, and I'm going to tell you what those are, and then ask you to help us on a couple of things. As y'all been reading in the paper, is that too far off? Is that better? Yeah, I never do these well. Thank you. As you've been reading in the paper, we have proposed a teacher pay raise this year of $1,000, $1,100 for starting to bring them to $37,000. That's part of a commitment that the Senate is making through Chairman DeBar to raise our compensation for our teachers and as well as our associates. And you'll see us having a plan to go forward on that. I think that's real important, and it's the things that are picked up in the press, and they involve the economics of teaching. But equally as important to me are the other things that we're going to be doing. For example, we have a commitment to pre-K in Mississippi. You just heard a discussion about the collaboratives. We intend to fund all of the collaboratives next year. Planting that original seed that you do for pre-K brings better students to our teachers when they get there. It gives our children a better chance to pass the third grade reading gate and go forward with a career all the way through to college or to be sitting at this table with you. So we think that's a critical component, and we have approximately somewhere, we think between 8,000 and 10,000 children that are not being served at this point. Those numbers we're quantifying them now, and I'm pleased to think that we will be able to fund all of those this year. In addressing our critical teacher shortage, which is obvious to those of us who travel around the state, I've been honored to be in classes. Y'all probably have heard some of that from Pascagoula and Ocean Springs to Corinth. I've been to just about as many of them as I can go to. You should anticipate in May and in all of the next fall that I will be in schools throughout Mississippi. I learn a lot listening, and I intend to be there so that we can be helpful when we and Chairman DeBar and I and our committees go forward. We can be helpful in the dialogue by having actual experience with what our teachers and our superintendents are doing. Been honored to have a superintendent's committee. 19 of them are working with us. We have a teacher committee that we've started. We'll be listening to them as well. So I think that's a commitment on behalf of the legislative branch of government that we go forward with assisting education to achieve what's the future of Mississippi, which is the people that y'all are teaching. We're really excited about that. And since Shelby has asked for it, we're going to increase funding for ACT by $500,000 this year.
Way to go, Shelby. See how that works?
Thank you.
You're real good. When you go home, you tell them you got $500,000 in one trip. And part of that will be the ACT, the Cambridge, and the other things that we have that schools have the discretion to use. Which leads me to my final thing, and I don't want to take your time today. I know how busy y'all are. It leads us to our final part that I've been quickly discovering. As we've gone about, we realize that only about 24 to 25% of our children actually get a college degree. Approximately 43% actually get a community college degree. So you can do the math really well. That leaves a significant part of the citizens of the state of Mississippi who do not get a college degree. Career technical has become the mantra for going forward. As we've looked at career technical in Mississippi, we've discovered that we are spending somewhere between $350 and $400 million a year on career technical. Some of that is remedial work. Others is being spent over some 55 different state agencies. It is our hope and our intent to get a hold on that dispersion of funds. With that, we are going to begin to coordinate with schools. It is our intention as we look forward in my own, I have 7 grandchildren, I want to know who they're going to work for when they're in 2030, where they're going to be doing, what are their jobs going to be, and how they're going to proceed. And to do that, it's obvious to me that a significant part of this will involve career technical. You obviously, you've increased your school graduation rates. You've made great progress in a number of areas in Mississippi, and we're all proud of the work that you're doing. But when we look at this going forward in the future, we believe that our 13th year of school needs to be done in high school. So we will be looking at dual credits, funding those dual credits, how they are given to community, the relationship between community colleges and you and high schools on delivering education to kids. It's cheaper, it's less expensive, it keeps them focused while they're in school and gives them an ability to earn a job when they come out of your schools across the state of Mississippi. Whenever you start to do something like this, people always reply and are motivated by things that are accountable. So when you go to look at the accountability model here in Mississippi, we find that no credit is given for career technical. Now, I understand that the model has been judiciously looked at for a number of times, and you have balanced things like the ACT, AP courses, the various 3 or 4 different exams that we have. You've balanced all of those, so it's difficult to wedge in something that would reflect the fact that half of our kids really are going into career technical. So we're asking the board to consider making career technical part of your accountability model. It is just a realization of where we are. We are at full employment in Mississippi, or just about full employment, 4% unemployment. But where we are at risk in our state, and it's obvious to me, is that we have a 55% labor participation rate. We have the second lowest labor participation rate in the country, only to West Virginia. To raise that labor participation rate, we have to have skilled workers. That's our job. That's what we're about in the legislature and what you end up being the perpetrator of. We believe that career technical will be that. We see honor in people that are welders and the people that can fix HVACs. We see honor in people that are carpenters. We see honor in people in trades and skills across the state of Mississippi. And on a personal note, I see that they make more than the lieutenant governor does. So, whatever. Clearly, this is part of the future of Mississippi. When I talk about 2030, the ability to build our ships, send our ships to the moon, all the other things we do in Mississippi, even those ones, for example, when you're running a combine, it's all now electric, it's all laser, it's all computer-oriented, those are jobs that we will have in Mississippi for hopefully forever, where we can make and have skill sets like that. Having the accountability model not recognize that is just not recognizing what's happening in Mississippi now and what's will be happening in the future. So we'd like for y'all to consider adding that to your accountability model. We think that will reflect what we're doing. The Mississippi Senate, and I think the Mississippi House, in visiting with the Speaker, is very enthusiastic about the relationship that we have today and where we're going. Y'all are the future for Mississippi. What you do is the future for Mississippi. We're only placeholders here for a few years. Soon those people that you educate will be sitting in my chair and every other chair that runs the state of Mississippi. So we are going to support you. We want you to help us, and we appreciate what you do. So I'll answer any questions I've got from anyone.
Questions from the board? Dr. Wright, any comments?
Thank you for being here.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to, I want to say, I hear you on career and technical ed, and just so that you know, I mean, this is something that we've really started focusing on in the last 2 years. Sean Suggs, who you may know, he's head of Toyota, and we're honored to have him on our board. He's also our subcommittee chairman for a recently developed committee focused on workforce. And we're in the middle of a redesign for something called the Perkins Act, where we get more funds for career and technical ed going to K-12. I'll also say, I hear you on the ACT work keys as it relates to our accountability model. And we've, heard this from several other sources. We've, had lots of conversation last year with MEC as, Scott Waller was moving forward with, a business-led initiative to include ACT work keys and some seed money to get it started. So, and the connection between the accountability model and what the public demands is critical, because let's face it, what's in the accountability model is really where the focus is. All these other things are interesting and important, but I think our administrators, parents, students are really going to respond to what's in the accountability model, and also what's funded. So I would ask Dr. Vanderford and her team to please get started down that path of presenting to this board, as, we have a very significant process, as I'm sure you can appreciate, when any sort of, changes to the accountability model are considered. We have task force, the technical advisory committee of very, very smart, PhD statisticians from around the country who advise us on the impact. I'll say, and you're not saying this, but just so for those that are listening in, we're being live streamed right now. This isn't talking about changing the cut scores, okay? This is adding something, where districts can look at the ACT work keys as part of the accountability model, so that, there might be an opportunity to include that, but we're not changing the cut scores. Don't, whoever changing that, we're not changing the cut scores, because that's just, we need comparable data over years to see how schools grow and students grow, and every time we change the cut scores, you start back over at zero. So, that's sort of a battle that we fought. I meant to say, and I should have said this when you sat down, Dr. John Kelly is on our phone. He's the city administrator for Gulfport with Mayor Hughes. He couldn't be here today. He had important work in Gulfport. But I wanted to point out that Dr. Kelly is on the phone. And if there's any questions or comments, we know you're a busy man with lots of, is that you, Dr. Kelly?
No, he just hung up.
That's
pretty funny. If there's any other.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like, give us about, another year, and I would like to invite you out to Clinton, as they say, to come see our new multi-million-dollar career and technical facility we're
Very
building.
pleased.
It will be state-of-the-art.
And it is, Rosemary, that is a critical feature, because you built it right at the high school.
Yeah.
Now, I have had probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of requests for workforce development centers that are built outside of that realm. I'm telling every single one of them to co-locate. Go get next to that school. It takes too much time to move. We can't be moving our kids like that. You miss a whole nother 2 courses driving them 15 miles down the road. Make sure that we don't spend any workforce development bricks and mortar on ones that are not co-located.
Well, you can come see it when it's done.
I'm looking forward to it. I was out there. It's a great school.
I do want to say, we really do enjoy the relationship that we have with you, Governor, and obviously, our Senate Ed Chair and our House Ed Chair. I think the partnership to me is just so powerful because we can just get so much more done by working together on this. So I look forward to your leadership and Senator DeBar, your leadership as well, being new on this, but know that we're here to help you in whatever way we can.
Thank you very much. Y'all should put Shelby in charge of finances. She's
She's quite persuasive.
Yes, she is quite persuasive.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
You're right. Anytime. I'm getting evil looks from Aaron because I'm jumping around the agenda so hard, but I do want to talk about my subcommittee meeting because we did meet this morning. We had Pete give us a quick update. The high notes are the legislative session has been reduced by 8 days. That impacts bill deadlines. The bill deadline to drop any bills was this past Monday, so anything that you go online and see, that's it. No more general bill deadlines. Appropriations still coming. March 3rd is kind of like the big checkoff date. That's when all committee bills, all bills that are general bills have to come out of committee or they die on the calendar. Several bills came out of Chairman DeBar's committee yesterday, focus on, they've already done teacher pay. There's a focus on teacher recruitment, which I think is really critical. Dr. Elam and her efforts to address some of the challenges that are creating shortages in our schools of ed are being addressed by the legislature, and that's a great way of how we can work, together to fix some of the policy challenges that are out there. An early childhood education bill around the Collaboration Act was passed. House Ed meeting next week. We hear about 9 bills will come out of that. We still are working on our priorities. There's lots of technical amendments that we have. My pet this year is the MSIS system upgrade. I'm told that there's no concerns about that. It's really vital. Still out there, I think that you'll hear a lot more of, and somewhat controversial to some level is the ESA bill. There's been a bill that's been introduced to extend the repealer, but also some more accountability. I've not read the bill, but I intend to see how it crosswalks with our policy changes that we voted on last month. So I'll do that. But also the computer science bill, I think we're pretty familiar with that C-Spire is pushing, which we've already covered. So thank you for reminding me about that. That's it for the subcommittee questions on that. Should we move on? Okay, now we'll get back into the order of the agenda, and we'll start with number 1, which is information from Dr. Wright.
Yes, indeed. So I wanted to provide the public with an update on where we are with our strategic plan. And part of my presentation, we're going to have this will be obviously online. There's also, we've selected actions that the agency has taken over just this past year. So I think that's important to realize that what I'm talking about today, we picked out what we call key actions, but then there's an entire pamphlet behind that of several pages, multiple pages of all the actions that the agency has taken where the strategic plan is concerned. So with that, I'm going to make sure that we try and move through this quickly. There's a lot of information to share. I can get this going. Let's try this again. Oh, that's not working. Is it this way? There we go. Got it. So as you know, we start back up here with a second for our vision and our mission. This is a point that we make every single time we make a presentation. I did this when I was in South Carolina, did this when I was in DC. So it's keeping ahead of what is it we want for all children, and that is obviously to build their knowledge and skills so that they can be successful regardless of whether they go to college and the workforce, and also to flourish as citizens. Our 6 goals are our 6 goals. As you know, the agency is organized around that, and we highlight the words all in every single goal, because that is exactly what we're talking about. This is not about some children. This is about all children, regardless of where they live. So I'm going to go through this goal by goal. So goal 1 is all students being proficient and showing growth in assessed areas. So we've done a lot in this area, particularly around the area of literacy. We have really doubled down on the science of reading and writing across all of our schools, and our literacy coaches are out there in about 180 of our schools, and those are identified as schools that are some of our lowest performing. We've also hired an additional 22 coaches through our state systemic improvement plan, and that is also being able to focus primarily on trying to improve students with disabilities and their student achievement. That is the subgroup that we struggle with the most across the state in order to get them to achieve. Also, we've provided over $3 million for summer reading grants, and that's all comes out through our competitive grant making. This Orton Gillingham training is around dyslexia and teaching teachers, special ed teachers, how to use the Orton Gillingham method. It's a highly successful research-based method for children that suffer from dyslexia. And we've also added 2 additional dyslexia screeners to bring to a total of 4. And our districts are required by law to test for dyslexia early on, and they must choose one of those exams or those tests that are on our list. We did a whole big thing this past year. We called it, Level Up. It was the social media challenge, as you recall. We raised the bar on what we expected children to know and be able to do in 3rd grade in order to pass. They had to pass at a level 3 or higher. This was the first year that we required that. And so we did an awful lot of media campaigning so that parents knew that, as well as making sure that teachers knew that as well. The multi-tiered system of supports is just that. It is a way through a tiered process to give children additional help that may need that beyond just Tier 1 instruction, which everybody is supposed to be getting, but it's also a way to provide additional supports for children that are struggling with learning, be they students with disabilities, behavioral issues, or English language learners. That is a huge piece of training that goes out to all of our schools. We did more than 500 on-demand PD sessions and coaching sessions for just about over 9,000 teachers, and that is something that any district can get through our professional development coordinators, and all simply by just calling up and asking if they see that their teachers need additional supports, we can provide on-demand PD for them. We also provided a lot of additional supports for teachers because the teachers asked for it around the areas of writing. Teachers are still struggling with what is it that I need to be doing to make sure that my kids are writing the way that they should be, and they're asking for anchor papers, and we're getting ready to produce those as we speak. We produced an amazing Access for All guide for teachers. This was to allow any teacher that was having difficulty with any child, and it was very specific, whether it was behavioral or academic or social emotional. There was a way to provide them strategies to use for these children, and this guide was really quite popular. In fact, CCSSO had pushed that guide out to other states because of how impressed they were with the use of the guide and the instructional implementation of the guide. English language learners, that continues to be an area that we continue to work on. We did 3 huge symposiums on that, so that we're trying to get our general ed teachers to focus on the needs of English language learners because we simply don't have enough English language learner teachers. So it really does fall to our general ed teachers. Algebra Nation, that's been huge for us. We've got a lot of data behind that. We expanded that statewide based on the data because children that are participating in Algebra Nation, it's been shown that they do so much better in algebra after having participated in Algebra Nation. Our Innovative Leadership Summit, that's something that we've done around the state, and we've tried to put them in kind of like professional learning communities. So if they're all getting districts that are focusing on something similar, that they can focus on it as a PLC. Chronic absenteeism continues to be an issue for us. It has dropped, but it's not dropped enough. We had that Strive for Less Than 5 campaign, and we continue to push on that. And we've had a great partnership with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading and with Johns Hopkins University where that is concerned. So then we talk about outcomes, and we've got a lot to be proud of. And I'm going to start with our NAEP scores. You know, we were, as you can see, number 1 in the nation for our gains in 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. We were number 3 in the nation for our gains in 8th grade math and 4 in the nation for our gains in 8th grade reading. We were the only state in the nation that improved in 3 out of 4 areas. When all other states dropped, Mississippi was the only one that went up. So we've got a lot to be proud of. These are our NAEP scores over a 10-year period. These are huge gains, obviously not where we ultimately want to be, but to realize where we started off and where we are now says an awful lot about the work that our teachers are doing across our state. This was our 3rd grade reading achievement scores. The level 2 was the first 2 that you see kind of in a yellow and a green. That was at the lower level. They had to score above a 2 in order to pass. And last year we had to score above a 3. So this was really the highest bar they'd ever had to meet. And truly, we were very, very impressed that we had almost 86% of our kids meeting that higher bar. Once again, hats off to teachers because this is letting us know that children are learning to read by 3rd grade. These are our statewide scores over the past 4 years in both ELA and math. These are the percentages of children that are scoring at proficient or advanced. And you can see that we are getting a lot more in levels 4 and 5 and fewer children in levels 1, 2, and 3. This gives you a table, if you will, over the past 2 years. You can see 17-18 proficiency or advanced, and then you can see 18-19 by grade and by subject. And you can see all that green, that's all the improvement that you see in every single grade and every single subject that we are testing. We also look at districts. We want to know how many of our districts have more than 45% of their students scoring proficient or advanced. And in just since 16, we have more than triple the number of districts in ELA, and we have more than quadruple the number of districts in mathematics that have more than 45% scoring proficient or advanced. This will give you an overall idea of growth, because that's something that we look at too. How many children are we growing? And I think that's important to note that these scores continue to improve every single year. Goal 2 talks about students graduating from high school, college, and career ready. We've done a lot of collaboration with our community colleges, with our financial aid offices, the Get to College and Countdown Mississippi. We've done a lot to really raise the level of awareness of even the importance of just completing the FAFSA form. This is now a requirement in a course that is now required in our college and career ready course in high school. And it's the reason that you do this is very simple. There's a lot of kids that have no clue that they qualify for aid until they fill out that form. And then once they fill out that form, that opens up worlds for them that they didn't even think were possible. So we're really, really pleased with that. We also, as you know, worked with our, all the IHLs now have agreed that any student that takes and passes an advanced placement class or the ACE certificate and scoring 3 or higher in AP is automatically given 3 college credits to any IHL in the state. Dual credit, dual enrollment. We have been working with our community colleges and IHLs to produce a manual for our district's use so that students can be guaranteed that if they choose a dual credit course from that manual, they can be guaranteed that that course will transfer. So what we found was students were sometimes selecting dual credit courses, and when they transfer to their college of choice, they weren't being accepted. And I thought, what a waste of time and energy for any student. So we now have a manual that that schools can use to be guaranteed that they are going to get credit for it and that it will transfer. And as you can see, we talked about this earlier, our partnership with C-Spire to try and expand our computer science and also our work that we've done with Project Lead, the way that Mr. Bailey was just mentioning. We provide a summer institute for teachers in order to get more teachers endorsed to teach AP classes. We've offered free AP experienced teacher workshops. We are trying to get more and more teachers to be endorsed so that they can teach those classes. And also to really get people to the administrator teams to really start looking at gaps by subgroup and analyzing course taking sequence. ACT has told us that the key, if you're looking at the course taking sequence and if it's not rigorous enough, it's not going to get children where they need to be. So we have been providing training to our administrative teams to help them with that work. On-demand training, once again, particularly around implementing IEPs and also inclusive practices, not only for special ed teachers, but for general ed teachers. This is important that they work side by side. We don't need special ed teachers working alone or in silos. We need them working with their general ed counterparts. And so we're really going to be doubling down on the amount of professional development that we provide in that area. And also, we held an inaugural special ed symposium for special ed teachers and administrators as well. Once again, more on demand. We did this with our middle school and high school counselors around the diploma options to make sure that all counselors knew what the diploma options were and that therefore all children would then know what the diploma options are so that they can design their course study accordingly. We've also implemented a task force of career and technical education directors and high school principals to really start looking and promoting our career academies. We're also working with community colleges, a SWIB board, and our local regional workforce boards to strengthen that whole workforce development. This was all part of our Perkins plan, all part of the many nights, and Wendy's nodding, Nathan's nodding, that they were out on the road listening and talking to parents, businesses, and community members. We also, as you know, the Perkins plan, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's been before you. That's in the governor's office for review, and it will be back to you for final approval. We've also worked with those organizations that you see on our initiative around high-quality instructional materials and professional learning, and that's for us to be able to put in the hands of teachers the ability to evaluate materials and to know whether or not they're aligned to our standards and whether or not they are of high quality and high rigor to use in the classroom. A lot around achievement standards. All that you see in bullet 1 are around our alternate academic achievement standards. Those are for children who have severe cognitive disabilities. We've had to create additional coursework for those children so that they too can earn an alternate diploma. We developed the Seal of Biliteracy that districts now have access to for any students who have attained proficiency in one or more world languages and English by the time they graduate can get a special seal put on their diploma as well. And we've continued to work with our middle schools around our middle school initiative. So our outcomes, lots to be proud of here. Highest graduation rate we've ever had, which is at 85%. I can tell you it's also the lowest dropout rate we've ever had at 9.7. So we've gone from well over 15, 16% in 13 down to 9.7. So hats off to teachers in schools. We've got kids more engaged, staying in, more kids graduating, and less children dropping out. Our ACT score, we did this presentation with you earlier, as you know, around our ACT with our overall 11th grade and then with our graduating class. You can see also children participating in dual credit. Participation has nearly doubled, as you can see, in that since 16. It has increased for all subgroups, and 96.5% of students that are taking dual credit are passing with a grade of C or higher. This is advanced placement. You can see since 13, we've had a huge push on advanced placement. That number that you see at the very top is the percentage of students that are taking AP tests with passing scores. What's important about this graph, note the number has almost doubled in terms of the number of tests that are taken, but the percent of kids that are passing has not dropped. And you would expect that significantly when you've more than doubled the number of kids taking AP, and yet our percentage of pass rate, which lets us know there's a lot of kids out there that can take AP and do exceptionally well. They need access and they need opportunity. And I'm gonna be preaching that from now on. This is our CTE programs. There was a, we're calculating this a little bit differently, and I think we had to change some of our course coding in that, right, Wendy? We caught that early on, and so it may look like it's dropped, but it's really, we're calculating it more, I think, more accurately around the children that are actually are completing our CTE programs. Goal 3, you know, one of my favorites, every child having access to high-quality early childhood programming. We have, needless to say, the Kellogg Foundation has just been so gracious to us That $6 million grant that we have, and Ms. Rye was talking about the power of our coaches, they gave us that money to hire our coaches, put them out in our early childhood programs. We also hired 2 additional professional development people, family engagement people. Families are critical to this work. And so I can't say enough about the work of the Early Childhood Office and the power of having this money to really expand our footprint, if you will, across the state. We launched the Mississippi Family Engagement Framework and Toolkit. Big hit with teachers and families. Hats off to early childhood people for putting that together. We've also collaborated, as you know, with the College Board on that preschool development grant that was birthed to grade 5. And we've established 5 new early learning collaboratives. So that's all good news. The better news is the more children we can get into high quality pre-K, imagine what our kindergarten teachers are going to be able to do having all these little ones coming in, because they are doing an amazing job. Outcomes speak for themselves. You can tell that these are the scores. This is the test score of the target score for kindergarten readiness is at 530. So our little ones coming into kindergarten, look at what's happening with our public pre-K. They're scoring well above the cut for being ready for kindergarten. And we've still got groups that we're struggling with, and you can see that that's there, and that's part of our job as well. These are where our collaboratives are. We get asked this question a lot, like where are they located? You can see they're all over the state, and we identified those areas as areas that had little to no access to high-quality early childhood programming, and we did that deliberately because that's where the children need the help the most. And that's been part of the criteria when you apply for a collaborative, and we use data then to identify those sites. This is the percent of kindergarten scoring kindergarten ready by the end of the year. You know as well as I do that 2 out of every 3 children are coming in not ready for kindergarten, but look what's happening by the time they're leaving kindergarten. Well over 70% are prepared. So that hats off to kindergarten teachers because that's a big lift when you're talking about children that simply are not prepared, getting more than 2/3, actually closer to 3/4 of our students ready for first grade.
Dr. Wright,
Yes, sir.
going back to slide 41, I could not help but notice that there are no collaboratives, there doesn't appear to be any collaboratives in the middle part of the state. Is there a rationale for that?
Well, number one, there's a large pocket of the area of the middle of the state that has access, children have access to early childhood programming. When we first started this, we tried to make sure that these programs were put in areas where children did not have access to high quality programming. So that's why you see them in almost like on the periphery, because and you know the state as well as I, these are some of the hardest areas for children to find high quality early childhood programs.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. This is an area that we've really taken a lot of time to look at, the number of children with disabilities that are in general ed early childhood programs. Too many of our little ones are in self-contained classes who have no language models, no behavior models. You know, they're in with other children with disabilities all day long, and they really need to be with their general ed peers. This is where children learn language. This is where modeling takes place. Imagine being in a room all day without hearing a lot of different words being spoken. And so we're really trying to monitor and get more special ed children in general ed classes. And special ed has done a really nice job of offering funds to open blended pre-K classes. So they have put out money. Districts can apply to open blended pre-K, which means a class of general ed and special ed children combined together. So hats off to special ed for that. Numbers of students we've got enrolled in Title I and locally funded. Some of our districts are using their title dollars to open pre-K. I think a lot of people are starting to see the value of pre-K and wanting to open more pre-K classes across our state. And once again, you can see our little ones in our collaboratives are just outperforming all other pre-K classes. Goal 4, every school having effective teachers and leaders. You know as well as I, once again, Kellogg has stepped in to fill a financial void and to help us try to come up with new programs that would increase the number of teachers that we have available to teach. That was a $4.1 million grant. We opened the teacher residency program, and we opened actually the country's first performance-based licensure program. So we've got 35 teacher residents in 4 districts and 73 performance-based candidates in 8 identified districts. And we've been collaborating with Harvard's Graduate School of Education on an evaluation strategy for that when we get closer to that. We launched a huge Teach MS campaign. Hats off to communications team and Corey Jones for leading that work to elevate the whole teaching profession across the state. And also it's on our website, so anybody that's interested in becoming a teacher can click on that on our website, Teach MS, and it will say if they're a student, here's what you need to do. If you are changing careers, here's what you need to do. If you're in college, here's what you need to do. So it's a very easy way to learn how to get a job teaching in Mississippi. We also established a 5-member recruitment team, and this recruitment team can go out to schools and districts and do recruitments right in high schools and have convenings and wherever that happens to be. But that recruitment, that is their purpose. Their sole purpose is to be out recruiting people into the teaching profession for Mississippi. We held our annual Elevate Teachers Conference. That's always well attended. We've done a lot more with the professional growth training as well across the state. And that we need to continue doing. We're also looking and working with superintendents on protocols for reporting educator misconduct. We held our annual Male Educators of Color convening at Jackson State, and that was in cooperation with MAE, and we led our first Women of Color conference as well. There is a need for diversity in our classrooms. We do not have enough teachers that are of diverse backgrounds, and so this is a way for us to try and reach out and figure out what are the barriers that are out there that seem to be hindering this, and what can we as a state do about that. We also collaborated with the Education and Leadership Faculty Association to really redesign the leadership prep programs. Their standards have changed and been updated, and so we wanted to make sure that their programs were matching the standards that they're going to be required to master, and also looking at what the assessments for those leader prep programs need to look like. So teaching and leading has been very busy along with that. We also are looking at how can we develop a toolkit for districts on mentoring and induction of new teachers. Lots of times, new teachers just need somebody else that can be there to help them as mentors. And particularly when you're brand new at it, it helps to have somebody there that can help you kind of show you the ropes. So we're hoping to get that off the ground. Outcomes. So this is a little bit different. We've kind of redesigned our baseline because we really tried to focus in more on the outcomes, and we changed these. We brought these to you last year. So the first one that you see is about increasing the percentage of districts reporting the ratings for teachers and leaders. This is a requirement by ESSA. So not only do they have to be evaluated, but then those evaluations need to be sent up to the state. And so we're much better this year than we were last year, but as you can see, we're still lacking almost 30% of our districts from reporting. This is a stat that I think is going to be very important for us to monitor. To increase the percentage of teacher candidates passing the components of that licensure exam on the first try. This is very telling. That 9% is nothing to brag about. That's saying 9% of teacher candidates are coming out, taking the exam, and only 9% are passing it the first time around. So that talks about why this Governor's Roundtable's been started, to take a look at teacher prep, to take a look at what we need to be doing to make sure that teachers are ready day one.
Has that been shared with the deans? That 9%?
I don't know that we've shared that with the deans. Have we, Debbie? The 9% pass rate? No. The other thing I've asked Debbie to do also behind the scenes is to break this down by EPP so that we know what that looks like coming out of each teacher prep program. Obviously, Dr. Elam touched on this earlier, increasing the number of licensed and diverse teachers and leaders, and obviously reducing the proportion of inexperienced teachers that are in high poverty, high minority, and reducing the proportion of non-certified teachers that are in high poverty, high minority. Goal 5, using data effectively. As you know, John Craman, under his leadership, has developed a roadmap for our MSIS system, MSIS 2.0. And so hopefully if we get the funds for that, we'll be able to upgrade our information system as well. Once again, Mississippi Succeeds report card, that was a whole department effort in making sure that we had the right stats, and that's received a lot of accolades, our Mississippi Succeeds report card nationally, because it's very easy and very easy to function. We also have been working a lot on data privacy and security. We completed our own security audit. We have also started changing passwords on a more frequent basis, and we've put staff through required professional development around cybersecurity. So to know what emails you don't click on versus what emails you do click on. I know that may sound silly, but we are getting attacked. This agency is getting attacked on a daily basis into the, John, what would you say, millions? Tens of millions on a daily basis. And we've even been able to track these addresses back to the countries of origin. So this is real. This is happening. We are trying to get districts to pay attention to this because we've had a district that was hacked and wanted ransom for their data back. We had the FBI involved in that. We've had Homeland Security involved in that. So the time, has passed for thinking that nobody can come in and get your data. So we are taking this very seriously, and John Craman has done an amazing job with his team to try to do that. You also will eventually be getting a policy coming to you that was out for APA. We've had a lot of feedback on the policy proposal, so much so that we're going to have to reword the policy and send that back out again. So you won't be approving that within the next month. Do so at your fingertips. There's so much information about any school, any district, all the features that you see up there. It's very, very easy to navigate. We also redid our website. Lots of positive feedback on the redoing of our website. Superintendents are now saying, my gosh, we can now so easily find the information we were looking for. So that's been a labor of love, needless to say. And also, we talked about that, the modernization of that, and working to improve its maintenance and upgrade. We also have a research arm in John's office that has been taking on different research projects to inform our decision-making. So some of the studies that you see are already completed and posted. There is a study underway now under Dr. Lee's work to be looking at our collaboratives. The first year we had our collaboratives, those children were in 3rd grade last year. So we'd like to see those kids that went through our collaboratives, what does 3rd grade look like, and hopefully use that then to inform our work as well. Goal 6, every school and district rated C or higher. As I told you earlier, we have employed a lot of coaches through our school improvement office out through identified schools. It's both on-site and virtual coaching. We talked about those interviews Ms. Altman did earlier that we conduct with over 100 of our lowest performing schools, and we will be inviting some of those districts in March for you to meet as well. The 3-day school improvement convening, that's held every year. The people really seem to appreciate that. It's a well-intended, it's always in Vicksburg. Likewise, we hosted our summer comprehensive support and improvement convening for school teams. And then also we've been working with 10 of our CSI high schools with Johns Hopkins to talk about school improvement and what can we do to even improve graduation rates in those schools. And as you well know, we have launched our first achievement school district with Yazoo City and Humphreys County. And you'll be hearing more about that as time goes on as well. So outcomes, lots of really good things. Mississippi, this is the latest report that came out from, no, this is not, I'm ahead of slide. It looks like this slide. These are our DNF districts. We're talking about decreasing the number of DNFs and increasing the number of A's and B's. And you can see what that looks like from 18 to 19. And then also schools. All of these data headed in the right direction. This is our two districts. This was before we took LaFleur. Has now been consolidated. So right now we are looking at Tunica, Noxubee. We did not have scores for Noxubee for over 2 years, but Tunica was 8 points from being a B. And when Margie Pulley took over that district, it was an F. And it's almost a B. So Margie Pulley deserves so much credit for this work. And overall, you wanted to know, you wanted your districts to be C or higher. So you can see in 16, we had 62% that were A's, B's, and C's. And in 19, we have 70% of district grades. And these are school grades. We went from 62% to 74% that were A's, B's, and C's. And total number of teachers that we have trained, and I think this is probably on the low side, because some people don't sign in when they come in, but those that signed in, that's how many signed in. And I'm going to skip through those because let me go back up one. I do want to go to this one. This one. This is, these are the number of states, and this has increased. We need to update this. We are now at either 16, I want to say 16 states that have contacted us to come out and either come visit us or asked us to come visit them to talk about what we're doing and why we're seeing the successes that we're seeing. So states around the nation are picking up the phone. I encourage them to do that. My philosophy is and has been, we are all in this for the benefit of our nation and our nation's children. This isn't just about Mississippi, and this isn't just about any other state in the nation. So if we can help other states achieve what we've achieved, and they can help us achieve what they've achieved in certain areas, then this is all about making all of us better. And very proud of this work, very proud of the work. And I tell you, our team is to be commended, because when I say, oh, so-and-so needs to come and visit for a day, they sure, and they clear their calendar, and everybody comes in and chips in. So I can't say enough about the team here at the department. And I'll skip through the last part of that, because this was just
Outstanding.
close. But I really do, I want to say thank you to the staff here at MDE. I mean, this is, I've said to people, I may be the face of this work as the state chief, but it's a leadership team that it's outstanding, and it's leaders that report to our leaders that are outstanding. There's not a person that's sitting in this audience that is not involved in all of this work. So I just want you to know there's a lot of hard work going on.
Thoughts, questions, comments? Great work.
I say hound.
Absolutely. Dr. Gavin, are you ready? Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Good morning. We have a few contracts coming before you for approval this morning. The first contract, action item A, it is for a contract with the, as we just talked about, the interim superintendent for Tunica County. That's for the upcoming school year, June through July. You can take them one at a time? You want me to
Yeah, let's
through
go
all?
one at a time. We'll vote on them all together, but just go down the list.
Okay. And the next item is a contract with Urban Policy Development LLC. You may have questions on that, so I do have Mr. Kramer here at the table if you do have questions on that.
That's the beginning of the MSIS redesign?
Yes.
Okay. And that was competitively
It was
bid?
competitively bid.
Nobody
We
from
had
Mississippi responded?
no companies from Mississippi. We evaluated 2 companies.
Okay.
Action item C is a modification for Mr. Michael Kent's contract, and that's simply to increase the PERS fees associated with that contract. Action item D is to renew a contract with the Mississippi State Department of Health. The Health Department provides our inspections for our summer food service program. Action item E is to renew, it's a renewal of our contract with Curriculum Associates to provide a comprehensive early learning observational screening program for pre-K.
Just a quick procurement-related question. I see this is under the threshold, but it's a multi-year. What's the rule? Is it the total amount of the contract over 5 years?
That is correct.
And if it rises above $50,000?
We have to go to
vote.
PPR.
So it's not, even if it's $37,000 now, less than, but the term 5-year makes it above, so that's why we vote each year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And action item F is a renewal with Riverside Assessments.
Any questions on these? Okay, hearing none, under the Office of Chief Operations Officer, do I have a motion to approve items 2A, B, C, D, E, and F?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion with a second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Okay, we also, on action item 3, we have 2 grants coming before you for approval. The first one is for a K-8 STEM initiative.
Okay.
Okay. The last grant is to award competitive grants for the nonprofit workforce professional development grants.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just have one quick question for the STEM grants awards. What were the amounts based on? How were they decided?
I believe it's based on the level of funding that we had. It's the amount of money that we had, the funding that we had available.
Some of the schools are like double and triple. Curious.
They could request an up to amount, and so we base the funding on what they requested within their project. So some of them requested a larger amount for the project they were wanting to do than some of the others.
Any other questions? Okay, under the Office of Chief Operations Officer, do I have a motion to approve items 3A and 3B?
So move.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our, thank you. Next on our list is consent agenda. All consent items are action items which require a vote. Under the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve items B, C, D, E, F, and I? A was pulled.
I just have one question about I.
Yep.
It's the pupil-teacher ratio requirement.
Dr. Vanderford, would you come to the table?
I just have a quick question. I think the standard is 1 to 27.
That's correct.
And the Hollandale School is 39. So I just want to get some additional information on that number is so significantly higher, and what are we doing to rectify that if possible? I'd like to kind of understand that.
Okay, Dr. Malone has stepped out, but
Okay.
I'll get that information and
Okay.
get back to you.
All right, thank you.
In some cases, it's, in the past, when the number's been like this, they've had a teacher that's had to resign and they haven't been able to replace the teacher with a full-time teacher, so it's not licensed, so it combines being under one teacher, but I'll get that answer for you.
It says in here that, and I didn't understand this, I had this underlined too, that they've divided it, it says cannot be, because students are broken into 2 different sections to receive instructions in 30-minute increments.
Yeah.
So I'm asking about the
Are those
hospital.
students being cut out?
Explanation for the 39. Do you remember that detail?
I don't remember that, but I've got a staff member downstairs that I can get to come up here and give us an insight, can bring their original waiver. Because they filled out a form and then we put it in this particular format. So we can get you an answer in the next few minutes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Under consent?
I have,
Yes.
You're moving faster than I
Let's
I just
consent.
think it's of interest. Now, I'm back to, what am I on? The absenteeism of board members.
Let's see
One
what number
before,
it is.
the
The
item
one
before
before.
that.
So they got to be there, if they miss more than 20%, they have to pay back, unless it's a
but-
military.
but I just want to point out, I don't understand this. In Corinth, the chairman of the board is absent that much. How do they have effective leadership when the chairman doesn't make it? I'm not asking the staff to address that. It's not their
It's a
fault.
rhetorical
But
question.
Yes.
I just think, I mean, if we're going to be reported this information, I was just kind of like, how can the chairman be gone?
Holmes County's
What's
got a lot
the
of folks missing
Follow up
too.
on this too. Don't we also mail a letter?
We're going to follow up.
Yeah, we have
ensure
to,
that
yep,
Well, there's several that,
Yeah.
about 5 or 6 that have 3 board members that are missing, and depending on how many board members they have, they would have a difficult time having a quorum to have a
Right.
meeting. I mean, if you only had 5 board members and you got 3 of them that are missing a lot, that would be an issue.
Happens to be on that particular.
How do we
board,
know
there's
that they
3.
pay back
Yeah.
their 200, whatever it is?
Well,
We don't.
It's
we're
not our
going to follow
responsibility.
up with them to get the district to.
Let me ask a different question. It's not our responsibility to ensure that that individual
No.
pays
It's
it back.
our responsibility in accordance with the law
Is
is
to
to
report
collect
it.
this data and report it to the board.
Got it.
Right.
And so
I
we
didn't-
did-
I wasn't asking for a solution. I'm just saying, and I'm not, I mean, it's not my money, but I'm not so concerned about the money. I'm talking about who is having oversight
Right.
right.
of what's
That's
going
exactly
on
right.
in these
Yep.
schools if the board is not.
You're right. Well, you've got, and to Ms. Altman's point, I mean, you've got one district here that's got 3, and if they've only got a 5-member board, it really does, to your point, beg the question, how effectively can a district be run when you don't have sufficient board members there? So I have asked staff to follow up with a letter to the districts, and that's about the only next step we can do, is
Right.
to at least
It's the
let them
state
know.
auditor's
Right.
responsibility at that point to make sure
I
that
mean,
they're,
we've had the discussion with
Yeah.
council
I
about
ju- I-
what our authority is under this statute.
since it was raised up, I just want to make the point. Yeah, I get it. They need to be there to be leaders, but we're reporting that they're missing, but we're not responsible for, ensuring that they're paying the money back. Okay.
Well, they make so much money anyway. It's not bad.
They make 6 times more than we make. And there's a bill that passed out of Senate committee yesterday to increase that amount to 300 and some odd dollars. Okay? Yes, sir.
Wait, $300-something what?
So the state legislature sets the per diem that the
Right.
local boards get, and I think it's 200 and X, and then they're going to raise it to 300 and Y.
Wait, a
Per
year
meeting?
you're talking about?
No, per meeting,
4,000
Per
a year.
meeting.
Oh, please.
Is that?
Well, and you guys are only making 40?
Yes, ma'am. Earn every dollar.
But it's really not the
This
money.
conversation
know.
is degenerating.
That's why we were on consent
That was
agenda.
not my point.
Consent agenda.
The money has nothing to do with
I
it.
know.
It doesn't, but
leadership.
since we're making it a point, I just wanted to be clear that they have to pay that money back, but it's not our responsibility to ensure that they do. We just do the report.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to be on the hook for that.
That,
Okay.
I just want to ensure that the students are being
Right.
provided adequate educations, and if
Got
that.
it. Okay.
Right.
I'm told that we have just 2 items. Okay, yeah, sorry. Under consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve items B, C, D, E, F, and I? Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, I'm told that we only have 2 items on executive session, so unless, you guys are, opposed, let's go ahead and get through that, and then we'll conclude our meeting and have lunch and get out of here. So with that is our,
Okay. I move the board consider making,
Dr. Kelly, yes, sir.
This is John. I'm gonna have to sign off. I got an engagement I got to go to right now. And I would request that for the month of March that I be approved for travel to go to, Nashville Legislative Conference in DC.
Okay. I will bring that up in the last part of the agenda, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
All right. Now,
okay?
Ms. Bell.
Okay. Move the board consider making a closed determination of the need to go into executive session.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion here? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. During executive session, the board took action to approve the appointment of an Ed Bureau Director 2 to Service Director of Safe and Orderly Schools, Brian McGarity. Also, we moved to approve the appointment of Ed Bureau 2 Service Associate Director of District and School Performance, Cody Schumacher. Maker Schumacher. Okay.
Maker.
So next on the agenda is a report on any meetings attended. Okay. As you heard Dr. Kelly mention, we need approval to attend for his attendance to the NASB Legislative Conference convening March 21st through 24th in DC. Motion?
Move for approval.
Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Have fun in the swamp. As requested by the board earlier this year, a work session is needed for Wednesday, March 18th, starting at 1 p.m. The purpose of the work session is for the board to hear presentations from persistently low-performing school districts. So just, this is something we've talked about for a very long time. Hats off to the folks in the department for getting this lined up for us. Again, persistently low-performing school districts will be here on March 18th. Presentations, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Do I have a motion to approve this work session for Wednesday, March 18th, starting at 1 p.m. to hear presentations from persistently low-performing school districts?
So move.
Second.
There's motion and a second. Any discussion? Hear none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Hear none, all those, motion carries. All right, the March board meeting will be held on March 19th, 2020 in Jackson, Mississippi at the Central High School building starting at 10 a.m. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Sorry, I was gonna let that side of the table say something.
It's like ping pong here. Any discussion here? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are